Welcome to Nada Yada Island.
We're back on the Nada Yada Island Confessions Show. Benny is about to tell us how he found two loves. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks to Metro, I found iPhone 12 and Apple Watch SE.
At Metro, get the perfect match of both iPhone 12 with 5G and Apple Watch SE for only $99.99. You heard that right. Both for just $99.99. Holidays with Nada Yada Yada. Only at Metro by T-Mobile.
Bring your number and ID, sign up for Metro Flex Plus, and add a watch line. Not available if you're with T-Mobile or been with Metro in the past 180 days. Limit 2 per account.
Meaningless stuff. Why do we gift so much meaningless stuff? Tired of generic gifts and hollow trends? Shutterfly allows you to create meaningful photo gifts for your family and friends. Whether it's a cozy fleece blanket for grandma, a stunning canvas print for mom, or a mug to make dad smile. Enjoy 40% off with code MAKE40 at Shutterfly.com and make something meaningful this year. See site for more details.
This episode is brought to you by Hulu. The new Hulu original true crime docuseries, Vow of Silence, The Assassination of Anna May, examines the murder of Anna May Aquash, a Mi'kmaq mother and activist who fought for Indigenous rights in the 1970s. The gripping investigation into her mysterious death, unsolved for 30 years, reveals a web of cover-ups and betrayal. Vow of Silence, The Assassination of Anna May, is now streaming on Hulu.
EVO. This series contains adult language and depictions of graphic violence. Listener discretion is advised. In the heart of the snow-drenched Alps, a darker shadow follows the figure of Saint Nicholas during the winter months. While the benevolent saint brings joy to children with gifts and sweets, his sinister counterpart, Krampus, strikes fear into those who have been less than virtuous. With cloven hooves, horns curling from his head, and a long, menacing tongue that seems to snake out of his mouth, Krampus is not the charming figure of Western Christmas cheer, but a creature who serves a different purpose, a warning. A reminder that winter is not only a time of warmth and celebration, but also of caution, darkness, and ancient judgment. The legend of Krampus is not merely a horror story for the holiday season. It's a story deeply intertwined with European folklore and the fears that have haunted people's hearts for centuries. Krampus represents the duality of the human spirit, the capacity for goodness, as well as that lurking potential for darkness. To the people of Austria, Bavaria, and beyond, Krampus is more than a boogeyman. He's a cultural figure, a symbol of accountability and the consequences of one's actions. This is the tale of Krampus, born of alpine forests and ancient mythologies, shaped by the forces of tradition and religion. He's a creature from a world of pagan gods and medieval Christian morality, a living embodiment of the shadowed side of Christmas. As we journey through the evolution of this terrifying figure, we uncover not only the legend of Krampus, but the mysteries of human nature itself. Welcome back to The Devil Within. You're listening to our holiday horror series. This is episode 1, The Legend of Krampus. Before Krampus became known as St. Nicholas's dark twin, he belonged to an older tradition, one that existed long before Christianity arrived in Europe. The roots of Krampus stretch back to ancient pagan beliefs, particularly in the alpine regions where the natural world was harsh, unpredictable, and respected with equal parts fear and reverence. In these regions, people worshipped gods and spirits that governed the mountains, the forests, and the seasons. The mythology of these early alpine societies was filled with creatures that reflected the dual nature of their world. Spirits of the forests who were both protectors and punishers, gods who could bring a bountiful harvest or a winter of despair. Among these, a figure emerged who embodied the wildness and ferocity of nature itself. This figure would evolve into Krampus, a creature that encapsulated both the threat of the wilderness and the protection of its people. Now, in some regions, Krampus may have been a god in his own right, a lord of winter or a spirit of the wild who demanded sacrifices to keep his rage at bay. His features, a combination of animal and human traits, reflect a creature that does not fully belong to either world. The horns, the fur, the cloven hooves, and the elongated tongue suggest a primal, almost untamed essence, something deeply rooted in the earth. To ancient pagans, Krampus was a reminder that the world could be unforgiving and that survival required respect for nature's darker forces. He was a figure who brought balance, an agent who dispensed justice, harsh though it might be. He punished those who disregarded the rules of the community, and in so doing, he maintained order. While Krampus today is often seen as a mere holiday fright, his origins were profoundly spiritual, grounded in a worldview that saw the world as a place where good and evil, light and dark, existed in a delicate equilibrium. With the spread of Christianity across Europe, the old pagan traditions were not so much erased as they were transformed. The early Christian church recognized the power of these local beliefs and often adapted them, blending pagan customs with Christian symbols to ease the transition for converts. This is a topic I'm going to cover in more depth a few episodes from now. But it was during this time that Krampus's role began to evolve, as he was paired with St. Nicholas, creating a duality that reflected Christian values. St. Nicholas was the embodiment of kindness, charity, and mercy. Known for his generosity and his compassion for the poor, St. Nicholas brought the hope and joy that aligned with those Christian teachings. But in a world where people believed in supernatural justice and accountability, the figure of Krampus found a place as a necessary counterpart. If St. Nicholas rewarded good behavior, Krampus punished bad behavior, and together they represented a complete moral system. Thus, Krampus became the dark mirror of St. Nicholas, embodying the punishment side of justice. Where St. Nicholas rewarded the good with sweets and gifts, Krampus would arrive with a bundle of birch branches, ready to beat those who misbehaved. In some stories, he carried a sack to capture particularly naughty children, spiriting them away to an unknown fate. This was not just punishment. It was a warning to other children that if they fell into bad ways, there were consequences beyond mere disappointment. By the Middle Ages, Krampus and St. Nicholas were an inseparable pair in alpine folklore. St. Nicholas represented the warmth and love of the Christian tradition, while Krampus symbolized the dangers of stepping outside that tradition's moral boundaries. Together, they were the embodiment of a dualistic morality, a way of reminding people that Christmas was not just a season of joy, but it could also very easily become one of judgment. In the Austrian and Bavarian Alps, December 5th is a night like no other, known as Krampusnacht, or Krampus Night. It's the night when Krampus comes down from the mountains to walk the streets. Dressed in furs, wearing carved masks with horns and wild eyes, the people of the villages take on the appearance of Krampus, celebrating a tradition that both terrifies and delights. During Krampus Night, these figures move through the streets, rattling their chains and carrying bundles of birch sticks. The sound of cowbells fill the night as the many Krampuses prowl, a cacophony meant to send shivers through those who watch. And those in costume will often chase the spectators, brandishing their birch sticks and shouting in guttural tones that echo through the narrow streets. Similar to today's Halloween celebrations at amusement parks, where they employ, quote, scare actors to jump out of the shadows and scream at you with chainsaws or fake machetes. I went this year. scared the crap out of me. Back then, as now, the children would scream and hide behind their parents. Some of the parents, like me, were just as scared as they were. The kids, giggling kind of nervously, wondering if it's true or not, caught between fear and fascination. But the adults are also swept up in the spectacle, reminded of our own childhoods and the thrill of Krampus night. It's a community event, a blending of fear and festivity, where the boundary between myth and reality gets blurred. While the modern event is largely a celebration, its roots remain dark, recalling a time when the threat of Krampus was taken very seriously. Children would be on their best behavior leading up to Krampus night, their imaginations fueled by the thought of this demon coming to punish them if they had been bad.
With Uber Reserve, good things come to those who plan ahead. Family vacay? Reserve your ride as soon as you book your flights. To all the planners, now you can reserve your Uber ride up to 90 days in advance. See Uber app for details.
In towns across Austria, Germany, and even parts of northern Italy, there's a thing called the Krampuslauf, or the Krampus Run, which has become a holiday tradition. Groups of men get dressed in elaborate Krampus costumes, gathering in the town square to begin their wild procession through the streets. Each town has its different variations and rituals, which adds a unique flavor to the specific events. But at its heart, it's a communal reckoning, a night when the fears and hopes of the community are brought to the fore, shared in the light of fire and the sound of ringing bells. In the 20th century, the legend of Krampus faced decline, particularly with the rise of Christmas commercialism all across the West. The figure of Santa Claus, cheerful and benevolent, began to dominate the holiday season, sidelining darker figures like Krampus. However, recent years have seen a revival of Krampus and his traditions, both in Europe and beyond. This resurgence is fueled in part by a renewed interest in folklore and an appreciation for cultural heritage. People in alpine regions, particularly younger generations, have sought to reconnect with their roots, bringing back traditional celebrations that were once seen as outdated. Krampus night festivals have grown in size and popularity, attracting not only locals, but visitors from around the world who are drawn to the mystique and excitement of the Krampus legend. Hollywood has also played a role in Krampus's revival. Films and television shows have embraced the character, introducing him to a global audience and portraying him as an anti-Santa Claus figure for those weary of the overly saccharine holiday spirit. These portrayals range from horror films that emphasize Krampus's monstrous qualities to more nuanced takes that explore his role as a moral force. This duality, the frightful and the moral, resonates with audience who see in Krampus a return to the complex, sometimes dark origins of holiday traditions. In America, Krampus has inspired a new wave of holiday celebrations. Cities across the country now host Krampus parades, with participants donning elaborate costumes and reenacting the Krampus Run. The spread outside of the native alpine region speaks to the universal appeal of this story. For many, Krampus offers a refreshing counterpoint to all the cheer and eggnog and Christmas cookies. It's a reminder that winter's traditions once held a deeper, more primal significance. Krampus has always been a figure of consequence, a creature who embodies the darker side of life, a force that brings balance to the light-hearted festivities of the holiday season. In modern times, Krampus symbolizes the fears and anxieties that people often prefer to ignore. In a season of joy and indulgence, he's a reminder of accountability, of the idea that actions have consequences, and that not everything can be absolved with a simple gift or act of kindness. Psychologists and folklorists have noted that Krampus appeals to a society that is increasingly disconnected from traditional rites of passage, especially those involving moral and ethical growth. In a world where the distinction between good and bad behavior can seem blurry, Krampus represents a kind of moral reckoning. His presence in the holiday season adds depth to the narrative of Christmas, counterbalancing the figure of Santa Claus with the reality that not all are deserving of gifts and joy. Krampus also reminds us of the importance of tradition. In our fast-paced digital world, he's a link to a time when communities gathered to celebrate, to confront their fears, and to teach their children the values of their culture. The figure of Krampus is a bridge between the past and the present, a guardian of tradition who demands respect for the old ways. As we approach the holiday season each year, Krampus's shadow looms over the festivities, a figure as mysterious as he is enduring. Born from ancient pagan beliefs, shaped by Christian morality, and revived by modern curiosity, Krampus has become more than a holiday legend. He's a symbol of the season's complexity. He is both punishment and redemption, fear and festivity, a reminder of the duality that resides within each of us. In the Alps, Krampus will continue to roam the towns on Krampus night, his chains clanging, his bells ringing, his birch sticks ready. He will haunt the dreams of children and adults alike, a figure both real and imagined, a guardian of tradition, and a keeper of the darker mysteries of winter. And so each year, as the snow begins to fall and the fires are lit, we remember the story of Krampus, a spirit who walks beside jolly old Saint Nick, reminding us that in the heart of winter, there is both warmth and shadow, joy and fear, light and darkness. The legend of Krampus, in all its terrifying grandeur, endures as a tale that, much like winter itself, will never be tamed. If you know someone who might enjoy this episode, I would appreciate you sharing it with them. And if you feel so inclined, head on over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review the show. It helps more than you know. And thanks for listening. Make sure you're following The Devil Within wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. You can also follow our socials at The Devil Within Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and now full episodes available on YouTube. Until next time, stay safe out there. The Devil Within is an EVO production, recorded live at Bel Air Studios in Los Angeles, California. Written and produced by Brandon Morgan, executive produced by Danny Abelson. For The Devil Within, I'm your host, Brandon Morgan.